So on to our first topic, which is working together. I'm going to start with looking at one of the starters that I particularly like from year 4. And this is the arm wrestling, cooperative arm wrestling. It's a bit of a trick, but it's quite fun. So the way it works is you get all of the children into groups of 3, and 2 of them do the arm wrestling as usual, and the third one is the referee who counts the touches each time the partner's hand touches the desk. And the aim is that you get a token every time that your partner's hand touches the desk, and the aim is the pair that get the most tokens will be the winner. So the aim is to get a lot of tokens. So you give them 45 seconds, see who's got the most, declare them the winner, and then you ask them, is this activity competitive or cooperative? And if none of them spot it, then you can say the winners are the pair which get the most tokens, not the individual. So if they can't see how they might increase their number of tokens they get as a pair, you can call to the front a pair that you've kind of prepared earlier, a couple of kids that you've prepared earlier, and get them to show that by offering no resistance and working cooperatively, they can actually get an awful lot more tokens and therefore be the winner. So it's quite a nice example of a win-win outcome rather than a win-lose, as we so often have. As always, links to the Welsh context for the AOLE. These are mostly linked to the whole What Matters statements 3 and 4, and these focus on decision making and the role and the social influence of groups. So there's some progression steps there that will be covered by this. Now, you'll see in the SEL materials there's a similar progression in learning, perhaps this time with a bit more of a breakdown of the actual sub-skills that are needed, sub-skills to teach as you go through the structured and progressive curriculum. So sharing, waiting your turn, taking on different roles, acting as a leader, and so on. And of course, this carries on through year 7, 8, and 9. You can find those in the learning opportunities. Now, I particularly love this part of the theme because there's so many great funny pictures and little videos and so on that you can use to engage the children. It's one of my favourites. I'll get along shirt. It's a hope over experience, I think, has triumphed there. And this activity, this is taken from the foundation phase, and on the theme of working together, there's so many different things that are suggested here, and of course what you'll notice about these are that they're absolutely what foundation phase and nursery reception, what the children do anyway. And I think that reminds us that it's not just about doing SEL, it's about putting a SEL slant on everything you do. And of course, reception teachers, nursery teachers, absolutely brilliant at this. Everything they do is about developing those social skills of waiting for their turn and taking it in turns, sharing their toys, asking for help, and so on. And then as we go up through the school, quite often we forget those kind of process bits a bit more and focus more and more on outcome. But it's good, I think, to be reminded by looking at those foundation phase, early skills that we need to teach children, and the need to teach them the sub skills carries on right the way through. So we've had a look at a starter and some of those kind of foundation phase activities. I really like this. This is an activity that's taken from the year 7 materials, but the teacher that I spoke to about it did it in a really, really fun way that engaged all of the young people and built so much on what was in the actual materials. And of course, this is something we see again and again through SEL, teachers building on a basic idea and making it so much better. So it's great to kind of share practice on all of these activities. So the activity itself was, what does an effective group look and sound like? And the people in the children in year 7, that was their aim to look at that. And the way this teacher did it was to show some couple of examples of really bad teamwork to start with, and you can get these on the web, but I've just chosen a couple for you to watch. And again, another one to watch, which makes me kind of grit my teeth every time I see it, but it's quite, it's a lovely one for looking at, you know, what is it about a group that establishes trust between the members? And yeah, have a watch, have a look and see what you think. So then the teacher went on and she asked them to write down the rules for the worst ever group, and in pairs or small groups, the children came up with a whole list which they put together and actually used as a display amid much laughter and merriment. And then, of course, the task was to turn that on its head and get the children to come up with the rules of working together that actually do enable you to work as a team. I love these ones that they came up with, everybody talking, phone on, yeah, people in their group looking at the mobile phone all the time, people arriving, leaving when they feel like it, and so on. So lots, you know, that teacher's really done a great job there of kind of making that learning opportunity into a really engaging, interactive session there. Just to mention that you've probably come across this before, but there's some fantastic clips on YouTube which look at the power of teamwork through geese flying in a formation. Lessons from the geese, I think they're called. But if you Google that, you'll find that, and there is a link in the PowerPoint which you'll have a copy of too. This is an example of one of the things, the lists of what makes an effective group from the pilot of SEL in secondary school. And I think it's quite good for me because it reminds me that group work is something that happens right across every subject area. So when we're looking at establishing an effective group, it's a really good way of kind of getting teachers on board, because you know, this is something that they use all the time. PE, maths, science, whatever it is. So these are really, really relevant skills for all teachers, and it's not about teaching, you know, pink fluffy SEL. It's about real skills for across the curriculum, gateway skills, I'd like to call them. With older learners, you might like to look at reflection inquiry, you know, using quotes like this. And this one in particular would be really helpful at the moment, giving it a kind of recent link through the Euros 2020 and the kerfuffle that followed the final there. So really, you know, get some thoughtful stuff going on with the young people through that sort of activity. Now, in terms of keeping the learning alive, some of the materials that are provided in SEL are these working together self-reviews, and they go right up from foundation phase, which are the smiley faces there, up to year 7 and beyond, which are a little bit more complex, but effectively the same thing. They're an opportunity for groups to look at how they functioned and to make sure that people are working together in the groups, and if they're happy doing so. So, you know, really helpful if everybody used one of those in secondary, for example, in every subject area they did one a term, then it would really keep that focus on group skills going throughout the academic year. And I think teachers like it because they actually see a difference, which I'll come to in just a moment. If you are brave enough to use one in a staff meeting, I do suggest using the early one. In fact, I've used the early one with absolutely everybody, Estin, Ofsted inspectors, you know, year 11s. I find that's probably the one that people can relate to most. So another little tip here taken from the materials is that when pupils are working in the groups, you just give them a number of counters and you say, right, each time you contribute, you put one in the middle, and you don't get any more until everybody has had their say. And there's quite a nice rule that one group I worked with came up with, and that was you don't have your second say until everybody who wants to has had their first say. This some groups that I observed, year 5 and year 2, and to be honest, I've been absolutely stunned with the difference to group working that a few sessions can make on teaching these skills. You know, as young as year 1, year 2, when children know what their role is, they know what's expected of them, they get down to work more quickly, they're more focused, they have a better quality output. And there's not those kind of off-task behaviours that we so often see when we ask children to work together. So, you know, that's another reason why it's quite a good one to start early and get teachers really on board with. If you are doing this, watching this individually online, you might like to take a pause again for some reflection and think how you might apply some of these skills. And if you look at those early SEL skills for working together, and of course the later ones for year 7, 8 and 9 as well, if you'd like to, have a think about whether in your setting you actually teach those skills in a structured and progressive way across the school. And then maybe have a think about what difference would it make to your average teacher if all children were taught these skills and across the curriculum paid as much attention to process as to outcome. If you're in a group with a facilitator, they'll tell you what to do.